Hey, guys, this is Gabi Koyenov. Welcome. I'm joined together with Aang, the Avatar. In this video, I hope to actually do more of a cultural breakdown as opposed to a religious breakdown or historical breakdown. And of course, I will get into some history and some religious aspects because that, of course, influence the culture and how these different unique communities interact and engage within themselves and live their lives and structure their families and worship and live, basically. It's so integral to the culture that's being experienced by these people, so it's impossible not to talk about the history and the religion, at least to some degree, in order to kind of give context and explain the culture and what's going on. Brief intermission here. When I started this video, I thought that I was going to talk about the different cultural aspects and whatnot, and after filming it, I came out with 40 minutes of footage plus. Rookie YouTube mistake. I thought I'd make a video that, clearly took more than one video to make. So in this video, I just get into the background, more of a preface, and hopefully next week I'm actually going to do a more specific cultural breakdown. And I'm really excited about that, so like, share, subscribe for the journey. The reason I wanted to make this video is to spread a sense of love and understanding. I think when somebody hears the word Orthodox Jew, they immediately think Hasidish guy. There's so much more depth and diversity and just difference than that. I'm not even sure what percentage Hasidim actually make up of the Orthodox community. It's possible it's even a minority. Anyways, I think a lot of misunderstanding also exists within the Orthodox community themselves. I'm not sure how much Hasidim know about traditional Sephardi Jews versus Yeshivish Jews versus modern Orthodox Jews. And I'm not sure how much each of these groups know about each other because they don't necessarily mingle with each other as one might expect. And also, of course, a fair warning, I don't know how much I will actually do the topic justice in this short video. All of these topics are incredibly important, and there's depth and beauty and uniqueness to all of these different flavored cultures. I don't want to reduce it and kind of stuff everyone in a box and make it seem like there isn't even more range to the range that I hope to describe and do justice to within the short video. So stay tuned, and I hope to also get into the different challenges and benefits of being within these cultures. And I actually have a pretty unique perspective because I was brought up in a more traditional community with a Sephardi background, and I kind of was then brought into the Ashkenazi Yeshiva community, and I worked with Hasidim for a year, and right now I kind of identify myself in a sort of range between yeshivish and modern. So I'm hoping that by the end of this, you will kind of understand all of these terms, and that's my goal here. And like I've kind of already been saying, there of course will be exceptions, and I'm not trying to put everyone in a box. If you have thoughts, definitely leave them in the comments. I'd really appreciate them. And of course, this is from my experience. I'm not really an expert or a sociologist, and I haven't delved in depth into all of this, but I do have friends and family all across the spectrum, and I've worked all across the spectrum. And actually, I can't even explain to you how unique that is. Within all the traditional and especially Sephardi people, how many of them actually go off into yeshiva and become kind of a more yeshivish person. It's rare, it's a minority. And even within the Ashkenazim and Sephardim that go and work with Hasidim, that's also rare and it's a minority. And, yes. So hopefully I can give you a very unique and awesome perspective, and I'm excited. First, a brief history/religious lesson. It's important to have some context. Orthodox religious Jews believe that around 3,500 years ago, we received the Torah from Mount Sinai after God had brought us out of Egypt and all that good jazz. What happened was God made a covenant with us, and he gave us that Torah. This is going to be very important. He gave us the way of understanding the Torah. So religious Jews don't believe in the literal word of the Torah. They believe in the oral explanation of the Torah, which eventually was written down in the Mishnah and in the Gemara. This process was passed down from rabbi to student, mother to daughter, in this unbroken chain from generation to generation, and that's what Jews believe. Then there was the first temple when all the Jews were in the land of Israel. That temple was destroyed, and a lot of Jews were thrown out of Israel, and began a first diaspora. Eventually, there was a second temple, and even more Jews were separated by the destruction of the second temple, where the majority of the Jews left the land of Israel, and there were Jews that still stayed there, but very small communities until eventually modern times, where a lot of Jews have eventually moved back to Israel. Jews had migrated to Europe, North Africa, and Central Asia. Eventually, there was a Spanish Inquisition, and even more Jews had migrated from Spain to the rest of Europe and into Central Asia and North Africa. So this begins the split. A very easy way to split it is between the Jews of North Africa and Central Asia have been called the Sephardi Jews, and the Jews of Europe are Ashkenazi Jews. And of course, there is more complexity to this. For the sake of this video, those titles will suffice. Then about 500 years ago, in the age of the Enlightenment, a lot of Jews were no longer keeping to their traditions and their religion. And along came the Baal Shem Tov, who was the founder of Hasidus, and started that movement. His idea was to kind of bring it to the next level by introducing mysticism into the daily Jewish life. Until that point, mysticism wasn't regarded as a common Jewish practice. It was something that only tremendously, what's called a Talmud Chacham, would be allowed to know and practice. Long story short, a Talmud Chacham is somebody that knows Torah very well, who studies Torah, and more importantly, studies the oral portion of the Torah. And this is going to be a very important distinction as we go along. Basically, the rabbis of that time felt that what the Baal Shem Tov was doing was breaking the tradition. And tradition is everything in Judaism. Tradition is how we even know what to do and what we are. And it's the whole foundation for the religion, and touching the tradition is just something we do not do. So it was seen that the Baal Shem Tov was messing with that, even though it seems that a lot of the things he was introducing into Judaism were seemingly positive. You know, they were things like singing during the prayers and feeling a certain sense of like emotion and really kind of living Judaism to the next level. I guess like those were kind of his ideas, and I don't want to do them not represent them well. I'm not really the best person to talk on the Baal Shem Tov's ideas, but that was his movement, and his followers really took to that very well, and the other rabbis of that time were very upset by this. And one of the things that the rabbis instituted in order to kind of combat that, from my understanding, is they started a Yeshiva movement, in which it became a lot more acceptable and common and pushed for people to start going to yeshivas more full-time. A yeshiva is a place where people sit down and study the oral law of the Torah. They study Gemara basically all day. And until that point, of course, there were students that learned from the rabbis, and that kind of created the next generation of rabbis, and they learned Gemara very studiously and, became masters of it by all means. But this was kind of a push to make it much more mainstream. And this is huge. So this sets the foundation for the differences within the communities that we will see today, because that movement happened largely in Europe. So a yeshiva movement and a Hasidic movement did not happen in the Sephardi lands, and that's why you do not have mainstream Sephardi yeshivas or Hasidim. Now, the thing is that you have later on where Sephardim had become Hasidic and Sephardim have joined yeshivas, and today there are plenty of kind of mainstream Sephardi yeshivas. When I say yeshiva, I don't mean a basic study of Judaism for teens and kids. What I'm talking about is a full-time dedication to learning Torah, and more specifically, the oral law of the Torah. So, as you can imagine, all these years of separation has created some diversity and some flavor and differences. Okay, and I think it's important to say this. Most people in whichever circle they find themselves in feel pretty happy, and they feel quite fulfilled, and men and women, and generally, I think they raise their children pretty well, and there's a very strong family unit and a very a powerful push to keep families together and to keep working on each other and to be a good spouse and a good parent and a good family member and a good friend. And those are all very important things that are promoted within the religion and within the culture. And it's all beautiful. And for most people, it works very well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. That is it for this week. And it's basically what you need to know coming into the topic of different Jewish cultures. For next week, I hope to make a video actually breaking down the cultures and giving a little bit of, I think, our strengths and weaknesses in the different cultures. Another thing that I'm going to make a video on either next week or the week after is going to be on Jewish dating, and I'm very excited about this. This is a stage of life that I'm in, and there's a lot to talk about, and I think it's interesting, and I'm going to be excited to make a video about it. So stay tuned for that and subscribe. And also just to refresh that the point of this channel is more of a vlog channel. I don't want to brand myself as the guy who talks about Judaism and culture within Judaism. That's not my thing. But it's something that I do know a lot about, and it gives me the opportunity to sit in front of a camera and talk and practice editing. And I hope I do some level of justice. Please forgive me if I didn't. Whatever. Yes, you're awesome. Take care. Thank you. Comment down below if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you just you send them. All right. Thank you.